And welcome to the Go Your Way podcast. I'm Greg Neerman, joined again with Maya Livney. And Maya, we've got a very, very special guest this week, Patrick Dubois. He's kind of known as the godfather of DevOps. And so he's at DevOps Relations and many other tasks at Sneak. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us on this very special Go Your Way podcast.
My pleasure, Greg and Maya. It's always happy to see some more faces these days.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to me. You know, we're talking about this theme of cloud cost optimization. And a lot of times when people think about cost optimization, it comes down to the technologies they're using. But oftentimes in my mind, it's about the people and process more than about the technology. And I think the culture of DevOps is a big part of that. And as DevOps is maturing, Patrick, I'm just wondering from your perspective, where do you see kind of the gaps or maybe the next steps for how DevOps evolves?
Well, that has been there a few years, and what used to be like emerging practices have now been like deep practices. Everybody's doing CI, CD, and kind of putting it out there. But I think the emergent thing is that more and more people start to understand that there's a relationship with the business they need to look at. And then it's automation by itself. I've seen many companies doing over automation. The engineers just say, have this mantra of automation. But like putting this in the perspective, does it still make sense to do the automation, or where do you get the value from doing a certain optimization versus doing it everything yourself, buying a service or using a service? And that is an interesting change in the culture, is that we have to collaborate almost across companies as well. You know, we can't talk to Amazon. We can't talk to a Spot or another, and like that whole collaboration aspect has been changed over the year. And I think that is almost we used to have suppliers inside of the company, and now I think the evolution is that they becoming part of our pipeline, and they might be there helping us, but also could be our next bottleneck in the system.
Thank you, Patrick. I would actually like, following what you just mentioned, how do you feel the COVID-19 has affected specifically the DevOps team and even like the entire cloud industry?
Yeah, so like I said, the interesting part was we used to think that sitting down was the best way, getting devs and ops in the same room was the best way. But we learned, for example, by the power also from open source, that projects can collaborate without seeing each other, without kind of having to have the face-to-face conversation, and still be efficient at working at things. I think that is a learning that many of us who are changed in their jobs of collaborating across and virtual, that is like an awareness that people get. And also, I think a lot of the companies, they did the right move of understanding in these stressful times that their people are the most valuable part of their company, and then helping them with, whether that's a wellness budget or other ways that they can kind of alleviate the stress. And that is part of making it a success during COVID times. So what is it the saying that like, what changed your company? The CEO or COVID? Well, COVID probably, made us work and collaborate in a different way, and might be more efficient way in the end. So.
And Patrick, when I introduced you as the godfather of DevOps. And my understanding of this is kind of evolved out of your development of DevOps Days and really kind of putting some structure around this movement and process. How has, I guess in general, DevOps evolved, but more specifically, how has DevOps Days evolved, and how do you see that moving forward?
Well, it's interesting when people ask me about the future, and I don't have the crystal ball, right? So it's I can always say, yes, there's definitely things like DevSecOps that are brought to the table when DevOps practices have been maturing. I also see a higher kind of focal point on collaboration, meaning things like mob programming, make a new term that it's like XP programming or to the extreme. Everybody sits and works at the same time. It's almost like flow optimization that like is at an insanely pace and working. Also, people collaborating all the time, like all these kind of little nuggets of change to the human side. And DevOps Days by itself, obviously, the interesting part of DevOps Days was like the AA. You want to go there. Hey, I'm having these problems at work, and hey, I want to solve that. And so a lot of it was kind of having conversations with peers and making that happen. And that is just continuing during these times. Obviously, it's not the same, but people, find that community really helpful. And it's still by accident that it worked. I coined it in 2009 because Agile System Administration Conference was just too long. So I called it like DevOps Days and that kind of stuff. I didn't know what it was in the beginning, but I don't like take credit for the IDs because those are kind of zeitgeist evolving IDs that everybody was kind of working on in the Agile community, in the operational infrastructure as code community. Cloud was emerging, so they kind of all came together. But I have been championing the IDs outside, and like by being nurturing the community, that's kind of why people gave me the title of Godfather, because I took good care of it, and it's not because I have people.
You ever whack anyone?
Only in the good sense. Only in the good sense of the word. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
hope so. I don't know.
And it's part of the success that nobody could take control of DevOps. Somebody tried to patent it, like trademark it, but there was so much prior art before that it couldn't even be done. And the fact that it was open, not one company behind it, everybody could bring their own part to the table, which is another interesting aspect of historically. It's not that everything was written down. It was deliberately not written down. There was no manifesto, so it could keep on growing with IDs. Obviously, there's a downside. Now everybody asks, like, what is it? And it has like 20 different meanings. But still, I think making it flourish and bringing out the new ideas was like very important. And having that label DevOps was important. Like now the stories around DevSecOps, they're going in the same spirit of DevOps, but having that label where you can find the good practices and people, wanting to learn about how this is evolving. That is like the power of that one tag, of the rally cry of having people behind that.
Absolutely. And Maya, as we talk about and think about cloud cost optimization and the people, process, and technology of it, Patrick giving us kind of the download around DevOps is great context of where the people are intricate to this process and the considerations for how we do this. So this is really fantastic, Patrick. Thank you for being part of this community hour. This really looking forward to learning more and following you more on your DevOps journey. And if people want more information, Patrick, how can they follow you online?
Best way to follow me, Patrick Dubois on Twitter. There's a lot of tweets, but I hope they're useful. So,
fantastic. Well, thank you, Maya. Thank you, Patrick. And thank you to our audience. And stay tuned for more from the Community Hour.